It's young moolah, baby. I could have died 20 years ago. I've been young for way too many years to know I shouldn't miss the calls from the women that I love. Eyes closed in the club, trying every single drug without knowing it.
What's up? It's Chris Savold alongside John Schooner, and Savold Fantasy Talk is back and better than ever. Bringing you first podcast of the offseason, first podcast of the 2017 football season, and we're here kind of just give you guys a basic overview of how the season's looking, how fantasy football is shaping up, some team changes, obviously, some talented rookies, a lot of sleepers, a lot of breakouts, hopefully to come, but then also you're obviously going to have a lot of busts and a lot of players getting too old. Then we'll be wrapping it up with some over-unders. We know you guys all love that. And then talking lastly about the Redskins offseason, how it went, and what should we be looking for in the upcoming season. So to start us off, there have been a lot of changes, as I touched on before. First off, Brandon Cooks. He left the New Orleans Saints with a talented quarterback in Drew Brees, went to an equally talented quarterback, Tom Brady, in New England. John, how do you see him shaping up in 2017?
I think Brandon Cooks will... I don't think he's going to be as good as he was last year, to be honest with you. I think Patriots receivers are so hard to rely on. I think like the one year where we saw top 10 numbers from Julian Edelman, he even was slightly inconsistent. And I think it's hard to rely on any Patriots receivers not named Rob Gronkowski. And I do think Cooks...
Can't even rely on Gronkowski.
Yeah, can't even with injuries. But I think Cooks probably, I'd assume top 30 because he is the number one option. But I think there's no guarantees that he retains the top 10 numbers he had last year.
Yeah, I think Cooks, one thing, you talked about how Patriots receivers have you haven't seen like top 10 numbers consistently since Wes Welker. I think usually you see Patriots receivers do very well in New England, in Boston, and then they leave and perform worse elsewhere just because they're a product of the system. And we saw Brandon Cooks kind of the inverse of that. He was performed very well in New Orleans, which obviously has produced a lot of great receivers. They produced 2 last year with Cooks and Thomas, but he's going into a system that's even better. So while I don't really like drafting New England talent in general, I think that Cooks does have a lot of potential. I believe
Cooks he's a quick slot receiver, so I think he definitely fits into their system. He's a great addition for the Patriots.
Not good look for Julian Edelman.
I think Julian Edelman drops out of the top 30.
Oh, for sure.
With Cooks, I mean purely for Edelman, just that he's not going to be on the field as much. But
he'll probably be on the field. Just targets.
He'll be on the field, but the targets will be down, and I mean he's not the top slot receiver on the team. But I think Cooks is definitely a good fit for the Patriots. Just the question is, will he see the targets that he wants, especially in games when they're going to be winning and they're going to be relying on Mike Gillislee?
Yeah. I think last year, how did he finish? He was the 10th rated wide receiver. I think I have him at around 18. I think he's a lot better than Demaryius Thomas. I expect a lot more from him than I do Demaryius Thomas, who is below him. But I do think there's definitely going to be a significant drop off.
Yeah, I still have him at number 20, so he's still like a top 20 option for me. Wide receiver 2 flex.
Yeah. Then Adrian Peterson going to New Orleans. I think Peterson, he's going to get drafted high because he is Adrian Peterson. But
I just see no way that, unless, like, barring an injury, I see no way that Adrian Peterson gets 20 touches in a game.
And even if he did, what would he be doing with them? He, at this point, is 32 now. Yeah, he's 32. He had put up good numbers in 2015, but then in 2014, 2016, he was been injured, not really performing that well. And I just don't think, if he started every single game, I would expect, RB2 numbers. Then you also have, obviously, Mark Ingram, who had the best year of his career last year, put up over 1,000 yards from scrimmage. And
I still don't like Mark Ingram
I don't
because
either.
Adrian Peterson.
I'd say stay away from the New Orleans backfield.
Yeah, there's so many committees this year,
general.
and this is one of the worst ones because there's two guys. I mean,
But also one of the most talented ones, I guess you could say.
yeah, with an injury, one of them is probably instantly an RB1 or not. Maybe not an RB1, a very startable RB2. Ingram would probably be an RB1 if Peterson went down.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think Ingram has.
I mean,
last year,
he has bust potential. We've all seen
he always
that.
has bust potential. He never really has been the most consistent player. He's always been injury prone.
But I see more potential with Ingram if Peterson went down than I see with Peterson than if Ingram goes down. But I would probably steer clear. I have them both I have Ingram at 25 and Peterson at 33. So I just don't like that back.
And with that said, running backs this year are all. It's not the most talented crops. So in reality, if either of them take the job fully and get the 70-80% of the snaps they're going to be probably an RB1 on some team.
Very strong.
Then Marshawn Lynch coming out of retirement for the Oakland Raiders. The Raiders obviously have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL.
I love Marshawn Lynch this year. He's going to be really good.
I don't know if I agree with that, John, and I'm going to tell you why. Obviously, he sat for a year, which I guess you could view as a positive and a negative, just because he's getting the rest, kind of like Peterson did before his 2015 season. But then also in his last season with the Seahawks in 2015, he averaged 3.8 yards per carry, which is not ideal, and he didn't seem like Marshawn Lynch. I think that's the reason why he retired. You're going to see an upgrade in the offensive line, and this offensive line has made Latavius Murray an RB2 for the past 3 years.
But honestly, considering, I mean, I know we've talked about this a lot that Latavius Murray just isn't that great of a running back, but I think we've never seen a top quality running back in this system.
Yeah,
and
Marshawn Lynch
and
2013, 2014, Marshawn Lynch in the system would be 2,000-yard rusher.
I mean, Marshawn Lynch, I don't. Obviously, we're not sure about health and all of that, but I don't think he would be coming back if he didn't believe that he could make a big impact on this team. And there's really no competition for touches. Yeah. I mean, there is in the passing game, but I see no. And I think they're going to be a good team. So the more touches he gets in the fourth quarter, I think Marshawn Lynch, in my opinion, is a high RB2, low RB1.
Where do I have him? I think I have him.
I have him at 11.
I have him much lower, I believe. I have him at 14. So it's not too low, but
I think in a year where
proceed with caution for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't advise drafting him as your RB1, but I see no reason why he can't really find good production, and especially in an RB class that's so iffy like this one is. I think Marshawn Lynch is definitely somebody who can work with in your.
So then other guys, I think we should skip over Garcon Jackson. Jackson, I don't really see as a good fantasy option.
Yeah,
because there's Chris Godwin out of Penn State, who's a very good wide receiver drafted this year, and then also you have Mike Evans, O.J. Howard. Very, very. I think that's maybe the strongest offense.
Yeah, and then when Doug Martin comes back, that's still another mouth.
And then Terrell Pryor going to Washington.
I think this is the biggest move that happened this offseason besides
and very low key.
Very
we'll
low
get
key.
To that.
It just kind of great move by the Redskins. We'll talk about that later, but I mean, if we look at the wide receivers that Kirk Cousins has made fantasy relevant, think about the players who have become relevant in that Washington offense so quickly. I think Terrell Pryor is more talented. It's a very strong offense. I think Terrell Pryor is more talented than the guys like Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garcon and those type of guys who were actually able to become usable fantasy options in fantasy last year. And Terrell Pryor, I think, blows most of them out of the water.
I think Jackson is very tough to say. Pryor is more talented.
I just think he's now. I
Garcon, I would agree with.
More usable option in my opinion because Deshaun
I can see he definitely has a much higher fantasy potential.
What Terrell Pryor was able to do, I think he was top 20 last year with Corey Kessler as his quarterback. Cody Kessler.
He was a pretty good.
He was fine, but if you put him with Kirk Cousins as their surefire number one wide receiver, I see big things with Terrell Pryor. Top not necessarily high wide receiver 2, but a startable wide receiver 2. And, I mean, like, flex option would look really good for Terrell Pryor, in my opinion.
Yeah. Then I agree with that. Pryor, I really like coming into this year. I think he is a pretty safe option. As far as
he'll definitely get targets.
New additions go to different teams.
He'll definitely get targets, and he'll probably see red zone work, too, as a number 2 option beside
And
Reed.
Pryor, he broke out last year, and I think you do have to kind of slow your horses with overhyping him a little bit, not you, but just in general.
Yeah.
But I think he's very talented.
Also, he was a little bit inconsistent last year. But I mean, part of that was the offense he was in.
Moving on, there are a lot of rookies that are very talented. One of my favorite rookies, Dalvin Cook, is in the Vikings offense, and obviously that's maybe the worst offense in the NFL, at least one of them. But Cook, I think, is a good fantasy option going into this season. John, what are your thoughts on that?
Dalvin Cook is a lot better than Latavius Murray, I'll say that right off the bat. So I think he should start by the end of the season. But he's definitely not safe to start week 1. Yeah. And he's like I don't want to say a project because he was like a second round pick, but I mean it's hard to know for sure that he's going to be getting consistent touches, but it's also a pretty bad offense. He's a very explosive talent, and he has breakaway speed, and he's really shifty.
I think from a running standpoint, everything aside from fumbles, I think Cook is far and away the second best running back in this class. Yeah. I think he's 100% better than Christian McCaffrey.
I disagree with that.
I think when you take away fumbles, Dalvin Cook is much better than McCaffrey.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's harder to... I mean, at least fantasy-wise, it's hard to have confidence in him until we see what the offense wants to do and what.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. But it is definitely have McCaffrey above Cook in my fantasy rankings. Yeah. I'm just saying. Cook, 3 years down the road, Cook is going to be a very good running back in the NFL. Yeah, and I have no doubts about that.
Another reason why Cook could be good in fantasy if he gets the job is that's just such a offense that lacks talent, and Cook clearly has it.
Yeah. And there's obviously, it's not the strongest offensive line, but I think Cook is a good RB2 option for sure.
If he gets the job.
Yes, which I have no doubt he will.
I hope he does. I think he's a lot better than Murray.
McCaffrey, I think, is another good fantasy option.
I like McCaffrey.
He probably won't get the touchdowns you want to see him get, but he'll be getting a lot of touches, whether it's in rushing or as a receiver. And he's maybe one of the best threats on that offense. He's definitely one of the best threats. It's him versus Greg Olsen.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Olsen's aging, and McCaffrey is.
He's probably like he's the second best receiving option on their team and the number 1 rushing option. So, the only thing that I would say about McCaffrey is that I'm assuming. Assuming is out of like based on basically nothing, but like I think Jonathan Stewart will get the red zone touches because he's a bigger body and he's probably a little bit tougher than McCaffrey.
Yeah,
but. Like, McCaffrey clearly has the talent that is required to be, like, an every down back in the NFL. So, I like McCaffrey, especially in that offense, because, and especially, like, with Cam Newton's shortcomings at times, dumping it off to your running back is a very easy option for him, and I like that.
And then also we have Leonard Fournette, who I think the majority of running backs this year that are rookies are in places where they might... I just really like where everyone's playing this year. And I think...
Except for Cook.
Yes, but I still think Cook... I think they all have potential to be RB2s, RB1s in this season.
Especially with the weak running backs that are going on other teams.
Yeah, exactly. Joe Mixon, I guess, would be the only one I would shy away from just because that's going to be an RBBC.
It will probably be an RBBC, but honestly, Jeremy Hill is terrible.
Oh, yeah. So Mixon, no doubt, is the best running back in that backfield.
So, I mean, if Joe Mixon goes into the Jeremy Hill role, I'd start him.
Oh, I would.
Because the problem is, like, do they still feel obligated to give Jeremy Hill touches because he is explosive? But, I mean, Gio Bernard will keep his position on that team. Mm-hmm. But, I don't know, I think if Joe Mixon gets the Jeremy Hill role, he's very startable. Fournette, the only reason why I'm cautious about Fournette is I think people are hyping him or perceive him as... And the Ezekiel Elliott of this year.
Well, he doesn't have Ezekiel Elliott.
And I don't think that's even close to possible.
Oh, I 100% agree with
because
that. I think the only running back that'll come close to Zeke in the next year would be the Penn State running back. I'm missing his name right now. But if you watch him play, it is astounding. Saquon Barkley. He is so good. Just remember that name for Dynasty next year.
I don't know, like Fournette. Should he get the touches? Yeah.
He's gonna get the touches.
You're a first round pick. I would hope he'd get the touches, but
it's not like.
But it's
Dalvin Cook. Let's say Cook was a first round pick. How he's Murray in the backfield, or even
Derrick Henry. You said Latavius Murray. My bad.
Look at.
So Fournette will probably be 20 touches.
Yeldon and Ivory neither of them are getting touches.
I would assume so, considering they use the number 4 pick on Fournette, something like that. When did they draft Fournette?
Yeah,
something like that. Fournette should get the touches, but
there's no talent.
Yeah, there's no talent in the backfield. I like Fournette, but their offensive line is not that great.
It's
like all right, but it's also a pretty skilled offense with like Allen Robinson, all that type of guys. But I know Fournette. I think Fournette is like a good RB2.
Yeah, and then we talked about Mixon. OJ Howard, I think, is a sleeper. Actually, first off, Corey Davis, receiver for the Titans. I think he has a lot of potential this year.
He has a lot of potential, but I think the signing of Eric Decker hurts him because he's now the number 2 receiver.
Yeah,
but Davis, he's very talented.
Now is incredible.
He's very talented. You can probably draft him fairly low, and I definitely think he has wide receiver 2 potential because Marcus Mariota is better than people give him credit for.
For sure.
The only problem is, that's why I shy away from Titans players, is just because they're a run-heavy offense.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with Derrick Henry and DeMarco Murray, they're probably going to want to feed them the ball quite a bit. And but I think that offense has a lot of potential because there's so many weapons that they have at this point.
Yeah, for sure. Then you have Mike Williams in San Diego, who I think is another fantasy option. I just would say, all in all, this rookie class is pretty
Mike
solid.
Williams, just purely based on red zone. I think could because Keenan Allen is the number 1 target there, but if Mike Williams is opposite him, I think he could do actually really big things, especially because Antonio Gates.
An offense with a lot of potential. Hunter Henry.
I don't think the thing is
Melvin Gordon.
Hunter Henry's a lot better than Antonio Gates, but he isn't necessarily the red zone threat that Gates is. So I think that actually opens up stuff for Mike Williams. That position for Mike Williams.
Yeah. So moving on, talking about Hunter Henry, I think Hunter Henry could be a top 3 tight end this year. And I know it's...
I would rather have O.J. Howard than Hunter Henry.
See, I disagree with that. This is why. O.J. Howard, there are actually other mouths to feed. In San Diego, it's the same thing, but you have an injury-prone Keenan Allen. You have an injury-prone Keenan Allen. You have Mike Williams, who's a rookie.
And Tyrell Williams.
Williams, we're going to put him to the side. But the
only thing is I think Hunter Henry's going to come off the field when they get within the 20-yard line.
I think this is the year. Last year we saw Henry play so well
when Antonio Gates was hurt,
and I know, but
the Chargers have said that they're gonna give that Antonio Gates is going to be limited to a red zone role. So if they're only playing him for 10 snaps every game, they're all going to be within the 20-yard line. And who suffers from that? Hunter Henry.
Yes, but if
Mike
they're
Williams.
already saying that, he's 37. He's not. I guarantee you, Hunter Henry's going to get more snaps in the red zone than Gates. And Gates is not a threat in my eyes, and I think Hunter Henry, if you're sleeping on him, if you're not going to pick him...
Yeah, but if we're going back to what I was saying about O.J. Howard has no competition in the tight end position. So O.J. Howard is going to be on the field in the red zone.
Tight ends and wide receivers, you should look at them as just receivers.
Yes, exactly. That's
who's
what
getting
I'm saying.
targets.
In San Diego, it's...
Hunter Henry, if he's playing, would be the second option.
The number 1 red zone threat is still Keenan Allen. And the number 2 is Mike Williams.
In the red zone?
Henry. Yes.
Why? Where is that coming from?
Hunter Henry he's not the physical presence that Antonio Gates is in the red zone. Okay, no. So if we're just talking about red zone threats on the Chargers, Antonio Gates is the number 1 red zone threat for Phillip Rivers.
But I don't think he's going to get the snaps. Hunter Henry's 6'6", 250 pounds.
The only snaps that Antonio Gates is going to get.
I don't think he's going to get snaps in the first place.
If he doesn't, then kudos to Hunter Henry. He's going to have a great season.
But my argument is either way, I don't think O.J. Howard. I think Howard is better than Hunter Henry. But I think if you look at the offenses, you look how many mouths they have to feed. They have Mike Evans, Deshaun Jackson, Chris Godwin.
Also, the number 1 option in the red zone for the Chargers is Melvin Gordon.
Hunter Henry produced.
There's no running back.
Has O.J. Howard produced?
No, but O.J. Howard is probably a top 5 talent-wise.
Name the last time a tight end produced as a rookie.
I don't know what. Tyler Eifert.
When was that? Like 2011?
No.
2013?
If you think about it, Tyler, I don't know if he was he a rookie that year when he broke out?
I don't think so.
I'm not sure, but that was the first year where he got snaps. And this is O.J. Howard's going to get snaps. O.J. Howard's going to get snaps. You don't use a first-round pick on somebody if they're not going to get snaps.
Actually, Eifert started all of 2013 and did nothing.
He was blocking because they had Jermaine Gresham.
Okay, that's just a stupid argument.
I'm just saying
he started 15 games.
And then after that, look what he did.
He was injured.
He was injured, and then when was the year? And then he had 13 touchdowns.
3 years into his career.
That when he actually became one of the focal points of the offense. I think O.J. Howard's going to be a focal point of the offense.
Deshaun Jackson, Mike Evans.
Deshaun Jackson is not a threat in the red zone.
That doesn't mean you're focusing way too much on the red zone.
I'm just saying in the red zone.
Mike Evans.
Mike Evans is going to get double covered. If you're going to focus on one person, it's Mike Evans.
I just think you're too focused on red zone.
Board bet. O.J. Howard, Hunter Henry.
Hunter Henry. Easily.
Okay.
I say Hunter Henry.
I say O.J. Howard will have a better fantasy season than Hunter Henry.
Bet on it.
Bet on it, baby. That's what I'm saying, man.
And then who else? I think we talked about all breakouts. Other breakouts. I think Henry's gonna. I think Henry. There's a high chance he takes a job from DeMarco Murray, and I think when he does.
We're still talking about Hunter Henry.
No.
I was like, why are we going back to this?
I think when he does, if he does take the job from DeMarco Murray, he'll be an RB1, and a good RB1.
I don't think he's gonna take the job from DeMarco Murray.
DeMarco Murray's the focal point. If you looked at last year,
Derrick Henry he was a really good change of pace running back last year, but I just don't.
He's not a change of pace running back though, and change of pace is in he's coming in and getting snaps and getting carries, but he's not a change of pace. He's a hard runner. He's
I know,
built to be a starting running back.
Yes, but he's behind one of the top running backs in the NFL.
I know that, but I also think last year. There was always the threat, and we said this every week on the podcast. We always said,
"Oh, I know." Hunter Henry.
Derrick Henry. You have to have Derrick Henry. Look. He's 15 carries, 4 carries, 9 carries, 12 carries, 8 carries, 9 carries, 16 carries.
He's the most important handcuff to one of the top running backs, probably.
And I think there's a chance. I'm not saying it's a big chance. I'm saying there is a not significant. There's a. There is a decent chance he becomes a starter, and when he does, watch out. You want to own him.
I think you want to own him if you're a DeMarco Murray owner, but I don't.
I think period you want to own him.
Okay, you're correct in some sense, but I just don't think that DeMarco Murray, who is snaps wise, probably definitely top 5 in the league in snaps. He was on the field a lot, and unless he really struggles, which I don't think he will in that system, I just don't see it happening. Because DeMarco Murray is probably a better running back than Derrick Henry.
Oh, I agree with that. But
I don't know. It's going to be tough. If there's an injury, Derrick Henry's an RB1.
This is solely my gut talking right now.
My gut says stick with DeMarco.
And my gut says if you have Derrick Henry as your RB4, that is very good.
Oh, yeah. No, sure. That's fine.
Then, John, your top breakout option?
My top breakout option is actually Mike Gillislee from the Patriots because I see him as a better LeGarrette Blount. Mm-hmm. And the Patriots win so much, you need their grinded out running back, and Gillislee's the only one they have.
Yeah.
And he's in basically a backup and red zone role last year for the Bills. He was really good. And I think he got volume a couple times, and he wasn't fantastic, but it's going to be every week for Gillislee, getting fourth quarter, second half touches and touchdowns. I think he will outperform LeGarrette Blount from last year.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I'm not sure where I have him in my rankings. I'm not even sure where ESPN has him in his rankings.
I have him at 21, but I could easily see him as top 20, top 15. He's going to be...
I have him at 30, but that's...
Watch out for Gillislee this year. It's going to be really good.
Then, just counter that, I think Corey Coleman also could break out. The only other competition for targets in Cleveland's Kenny Britt, and Britt's not that great.
Yeah, I know.
Coleman last year when he was healthy was a threat. Obviously, he was one of the premier deep threats in college and red zone threats in college prior to his career. I think you're just going to see that with Cody Kessler.
I'm just kind of obsessed with game flow, but if you think like game flow wise, they're going to be throwing the Browns.
Yeah.
So, and Corey Coleman's definitely a deep threat. So I like Corey Coleman too. He's on my list. One other sleeper, I think. I mean, I like Paul Perkins a lot just because there's no competition in New York, and if you can get any 15, 20 touch running back, you need to get them, especially in the late rounds where Paul Perkins is sitting. But another guy I really want to talk about is Eric Decker going to the Titans. And yes, I don't love his situation because it's such a log-jammed offense. But Eric Decker, despite how much everyone hates him, he just produces every year. He's never been a number one wide receiver, ever. He sat behind Demaryius Thomas.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And he sat behind Brandon Marshall.
But he's always getting a good fantasy option.
And he's always a good fantasy option. Like, yes, I would not start him week one with confidence at all, but he's definitely someone who I would take on my bench because he'll probably go pretty low, and I wouldn't be surprised if he somehow finds a way in that offense, even with all the competition.
Yeah, I think two more people you could also see break out is Carson Wentz as a quarterback.
I like his
and then
offense.
Also, I think Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where I have him, but I'm in 9. I think he will be a very good fantasy.
I have Winston at 8, but he has so many weapons, and like with quarterbacks, like you don't have to worry about who they're throwing it to. It's just as long as they have guys to throw it to, and he has so many guys to throw it to, and especially if you consider that there's not going to be anyone for them to run with in like the first couple. I mean, yeah, Jaquiz Rogers, sure, but that's going to be a passing offense at the beginning of the year. Yeah, and I see no reason why Jameis Winston can't be a top 5 quarterback.
And John, do you have any other breakouts or move on to bus?
My last one would probably be Tyreek Hill because,
for sure,
especially now without Jeremy Maclin, there's no doubt that he's their number one wide receiver, but also he's just the best player on their offense. Yeah, like and there's Andy Reid loves giving the ball to Tyreek Hill. Just doesn't matter how. They want the ball in Tyreek Hill's hands, and now that they know how good he is, they're just gonna feed him the ball, and I see no reason why he can't be top 15. He just purely based on touches and speed that we know he's going to get.
So then, bust-wise, Todd Gurley, this is more so, I'm just surprised that ESPN, they have him as a 20th ranked player.
He was just so bad last year, it's hard for me to get so excited about
There's no chance I draft him in the first 2 or 3 rounds. And I think he's going to fall in every single
The only reason why I like Todd Gurley at all, and I think I have him in my top 15, even though I don't love him. But yeah, I have him at 12. But it's just he's for sure going to get 15 touches every game. Yeah. And like you're buying touches this year as a running back because I would much rather, despite his struggles, I'd much rather have Todd Gurley than Eddie Lacy. And like any of these guys who are just like in these really tough committees. Like it's just so hard, but I wouldn't say Gurley's going to be a bust just because 15 carries to me is not a bust.
Yeah. Well, okay.
I mean, like 15 carries.
He had 15 carries last week or last year every game.
Yeah, but I think you have to buy carries, like in the draft.
I would not buy him in the first 3 rounds.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I would not either. And that's probably where he's going to go. So I would not recommend Todd Gurley.
Carlos Hyde, I think, is a talented running back. He's never really been able to put a full season together. Yeah. But the reason I have him in the bust columns is just because Kyle Shanahan has not shown a lot of confidence in him. There's been a lot of talk among local talk shows in the San Francisco area whether he fits into the Shanahan offense.
Also, I think there was a lot of talk that he's not going to start, which, I mean, I think he should start at first, but, like, it's hard for Carlos Hyde because he's kind of like Gurley, too. Like, they want to get him the ball, but it's a game flow problem, too, just because they're not going to win very many games.
Yeah. One thing, like, different than Hyde's always been an efficient running back.
Which is why you want someone like Mike Gillislee instead of him.
Yeah, I would. He's a tough player to rank.
Yeah, I mean, like I think I have him in the top 15, but it's just because he was pretty productive last year, Carlos Hyde. Mm-hmm. But also with the injuries, it's always hard to predict with him. But also, I mean, he doesn't provide in the passing game what some of these other guys do too, and they're gonna pass a lot.
Then also, let's see. Isaiah Crowell, that's kind of just he had a few good games last year.
And he's getting drafted way too high.
Yeah.
I don't trust it at all.
And then Ben Roethlisberger, I have him as my 17 QB.
I think, yeah.
And this is because Roethlisberger, honestly, for the past few years,
11.
he hasn't been consistent. He's been injury prone, which is surprising because he's so big. But I just can't get excited about Roethlisberger. I wouldn't be able to draft him, period. I just don't see him performing well in the next year. And he's a lot of options, don't get me wrong. But I think that the fact that he's been so inconsistent with these options, kind of show his body's deteriorating. I think
I'd rather have Jameis Winston, definitely.
it's time. I see Roethlisberger is kind of consistent or similar to Eli Manning in that they both used to be very good, and Roethlisberger is obviously better for longer and better period than Manning. But at this point, they're both aging, they're both struggling, but they're still starting, and both these teams need to invest in a quarterback, and they should have invested in a quarterback this year, in my opinion. But
I agree. It's just especially with the injuries with Ben, but like at least Eli's been on the field.
Yeah, for sure. But the Giants did draft. I think
you want like any Steeler you can get except for Roethlisberger. Because their offense is stacked. It's just and like Roethlisberger is good for those options, but he himself has been really inconsistent, and it's hard to trust him.
Yeah, and they drafted Dobbs. I mean, but that's irrelevant.
Doesn't really do anything. For my busts, we already talked about Julian Edelman. Just I don't like the situation he's in, especially as the number 2 slot receiver. Really quickly, Rashard Matthews was actually really good last year, very productive. But he went from the number 1 target or the number 2 behind Delaney Walker to now like the number 4 or 5. Yeah. And it's hard for me to get excited about someone like that, especially with still a young quarterback, Marcus Mariota, and the run heavy offense they're in. Next, despite how much you love them, Chris, I can't get excited about Dolphins skill players besides Jay Ajayi, just because last year they fed Ajayi and it worked. Like their ability to get into the playoffs. I'm struggling to like think that they're gonna shy away from that because like what got them into the playoffs was feeding Jay Ajayi 25 touches a game, and Ajayi's gonna get the volume. I think he has a chance to be a pretty good RB1. But like Devontae Parker, even Jarvis Landry, I just don't trust them to get that many targets.
And everybody knows about my man crush on Devontae Parker. Still think he's gonna be able to pull it together eventually, but he's ranked like 12th round or 13th round this year, so obviously it's not a huge investment. So I say might as well draft him. But
He'll be pretty low. Just like one more, Devontae Adams was pretty good last year, but especially with the addition of Martellus Bennett as like their big option, not big on Devontae Adams in that offense. Although they're not going to be running very much, so there's lots of targets to go around.
So then we'll finish up with some over-unders. Des Bryant, let's see where he is with ESPN rankings.
Just disclaimer, let's see, I have Bryant at 7.
All right, would you take Bryant or Amari Cooper?
Bryant.
That's tough. Bryant's I would go with Cooper at this point.
Cooper is good, but so inconsistent, and Michael Crabtree is a lot more consistent than him.
Even though Bryant or Alshon Jeffrey. I would go Bryant here.
I would go Bryant here because Jeffrey. I mean, I'm just more confident in Dak Prescott than Carson Wentz.
Bryant or Jordy Nelson.
Ooh, that's a tough. I'd go Bryant.
I would go Nelson personally.
I mean, the only thing is that's a really tough one.
Jordy's old, but Bryant in his mind, I'm pretty sure he's younger. Seems like the same age.
Yeah, Dez struggled to stay on the field, but we never really got to see enough of Dez with Dak to know. But it's he's just so explosive. But I mean, there's definitely more touches for Jordy, which is a reason why I'd probably get more excited about him. But that's a really tough one. I'd probably stick with Dez, but Jordy's definitely going to be a really good option.
So then, Todd Gurley. This is
going to be interesting.
Gurley or Lamar Miller?
Miller.
I think I'd go Miller too. Gurley or Carlos Hyde.
Gurley. He has more job security.
I'm gonna go Hyde, and that's just good. That's really
I just don't like either of them.
See, both of them have so much potential,
Yeah,
but then
I just really don't like either of them.
Gurley's a year removed from that incredible rookie season.
The only thing, the one thing I would say is
honestly, Gurley. I think I hate Gurley too much.
I'm like honestly like Gurley's. I think Gurley's struggles last year was mainly based on offensive line and how bad his team was, and I just think he's a better running back than Carlos Hyde. And like there's so much potential for him to break out, and I don't know.
Yeah, I would actually go Gurley or Leonard Fournette. That's a tough one. I would go Fournette.
Fournette, yeah, I have Fournette. Let me make sure. Oh no, I have Gurley in my rankings, but I think I'd rather have Fournette. I think their team is better.
I always tend to like rookies more than I should, just because of how much I love the NFL draft, and then it's just like I don't know.
The question like that I'm thinking about is like which of them is a better running back? I would probably
Gurley or Fournette.
I would probably.
That's so tough because you don't even know how good Gurley is as a running back because he had one really really good year and one really bad year, and then he performed better than Fournette in college.
Fournette, like, obviously he's very explosive. Like he led LSU, but he had some really bad games in college. Like when it counted.
That's why I think Dalvin Cook is like.
Dalvin Cook was so much more consistent than Leonard Fournette.
And just like I don't know.
I don't know. Talent-wise, I would probably stick with Gurley, but that's actually a pretty tough over-under.
Fournette's similar in my mind to like an Alabama running back, and that is just this like huge running back who's kind of just like is huge. And
I don't know if like the one thing like I actually think about a lot in the NFL is like breakaway speed, and I don't know if Fournette has it.
Cook has it,
and the reason why I think about that is because like most of the offensive lines in the league are pretty good. Like most of the guys can get through the line pretty well, but
it's about vision. Vision is one of the most important qualities.
Yeah, vision. That's basically what I'm saying. Like Le'Veon Bell is like the best vision in the league, and when he breaks through the line, he hits the hole hard and goes. And the problem is like Eddie Lacy, for example, he sometimes finds the hole, but he doesn't hit it hard enough, and that's why he struggles to get through the line sometimes. And that's why I worry about Fournette. Like, once you break into the secondary, can you turn 20-yard runs into 40-yard runs? Yeah. Can you keep it moving once you...
So then, last one, we're still doing Gurley. So, Gurley or Marshawn Lynch?
Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah, I think I'd go Lynch as well. All right, so now Redskins talk, my favorite time of the year. Redskins, overall, offseason, got off to a very, 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 very... very, very shaky start with the whole McLuhan incident. Check out Scott6 on Twitter.
And
protesting group outside Snyder's house.
Coordinator.
And losing, obviously, offensive coordinator in Sean McVay. Aside from that, I think this offseason was excellent. And the Redskins, for some reason, the free agency signings we made went very under the radar, but we made some of the best acquisitions, and all for very cheap. Pryor, cheap, maybe the best wide receiver on the market this year.
Yeah, I mean, we know the athletic ability is there with Terrell Pryor. I liked that signing so much, and it was kind of like a surprise signing. Like there was not much build up to it.
Yeah,
and it just kind of happened, and that's a game changer for the Redskins. They lost their 2 number 1 outside threats, and then basically upgraded.
Yeah, and then also we brought in McGee and McLean, 2 serviceable defensive linemen, and then Swearinger was another very talented safety who we got for cheap, and then Zach Brown, All-Pro or Pro Bowl middle linebacker from the Buffalo Bills, which will help one of our very very weak positions. Then the draft was one of the best drafts in the NFL. You've almost 4 instant starters in Jonathan Allen, who is immensely talented, one of the probably top 3 most talented defensive players in the NFL draft, but fell because of shoulder issues, which shouldn't affect him for 5 or 6 years. And then you have Ryan Anderson, a very solid all-around outside linebacker out of Alabama, and then Moreau, talented, and though he is injured right now, he could really help us on the outside. If we have a secondary that is Norman and Moreau on the outside, and then Breland in the slot where he excels the most, that is very scary for opposing offenses. Then you have Perrine, who will help Rob Kelly out. That's going to be a really interesting positional battle to start. See who starts, I'm sorry.
My gut says Kelly at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I agree with that. Overall, I would grade the offseason A-.
It was a good offseason.
Without the McLuhan and McVay losses, I would give it an A+.
I mean, filled a lot of holes, upgraded in positions that, like, because we didn't think wide receiver would be a hole because we weren't sure they would all leave, but
we got youth at wide receiver, which is so important.
And, like, I'm actually really excited to watch Josh Doctson this year. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know necessarily, like, I think there's still some more holes that they could have filled, but I think they did a really good job picking up the obvious holes, which was defensive line.
Yeah.
Outside linebacker.
Record this season, I would go 10-6, 9-7.
I would say 10-6.
Right.
The ceiling. I mean, I don't know.
The ceiling is the floor.
I think they could. They have the chance to be an 11-win team, but that's just going to be, especially in that division.
It depends how the rookies perform. It depends how free. Because when you look,
but Jonathan, like, I don't know. In my opinion, Jonathan Allen is like a huge part of like how this team does. Because
and if you look at the team,
creating the pass
if everyone
rush,
performs like how you expect them to perform, and that's not even saying like performs at their best.
We don't know what the rookies how well they can perform.
Yeah, but if you look wide receiver with Doctson, Pryor, Jameson Crowder, Brian Quick. That's a solid group. Quarterback obviously solid. Offensive line solid.
Jordan Reed needs to stay healthy. That's
tight
what
end.
I will say.
But you still have Vernon Davis as a backup who performed very well last year.
Except for his drops.
The entire offense is solid except for the running game, which is serviceable.
I mean, Rob Kelly can be good. And
then you have Perrine too, who we haven't seen yet, and he has potential.
Yeah.
Then defensively, which was terrible last year, you have Moreau, Breland, Fuller, Norman. Fuller struggled last year, but he's going to bounce back this year, in my opinion. He was kind of thrown into a lot of positions when he wasn't fully healthy. And then, obviously, Norman played very well last year. Breland played very well down the stretch last year. And then Moreau has a lot of potential as a rookie. Safety, Swearinger, and Cravens, I am so excited about.
I'm really excited about Swearinger. I think that was another great sign that went under the radar.
Yeah, and then you have outside linebacker, obviously very strong with Preston Smith, Trent Murphy, Ryan Anderson, Ryan Kerrigan. Defensive line vastly improved, but still kind of a worry.
Yeah, I think that was the main shortcoming for the Redskins last year. Just like an inability to create like that, like interior presence. Like no team was afraid to run the ball on the Redskins, and that was an issue. But I think there's definitely an opportunity for improvement.
Sign Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, honestly.
For Christ's sake, just sign Kirk Cousins.
That's gonna be very worrisome. I would say for the whole season. But if they can sign him, it's all going up from here if they can just sign him. But the prospect of losing him, it seems like all of the work that you've done just goes away if you lose your franchise quarterback.
So 3 keys this season for the Redskins: re-sign Kirk Cousins, good running back play,
hold your own in that,
or
NFC East.
Good bounce back seasons from Breland and Doctson, and good play from their safeties. So, from Chris Savold and John Schooner, this is Savold Fantasy Talk. See ya.
Never wait for nothing, gotta get it right now. I'm in the spotlight when they turn the lights down. Only a champ swing the hardest in the 12th round. I love the fourth quarter, I love the ninth inning, I love game 7. Bring on the competition, cause in my heart, yeah, nobody do it better. Can't slow me down, won't stop me, never. I'm so Cassius Clay, I'm Tyson in his prime. You know me with, I'm Barry Bonds with mine. I beat the bus.